that we are on the right direction. People, I'm in Nigeria, people have asked me, will this country, will Peter Obi have done anything different if he won the election? I said no. He would have removed subsidy. From day one also, Naira need to find his value. But you know, it's hard for me to say this because you're a rich man. What are you talking? But what I'm saying is that the government should be more disciplined to use the money they have removed in the subsidy to put it in infrastructure, so that people that you have taken from them, those who are flying private jet from subsidy money, their business is spoiled. But if you collect that money from them and squander it yourself and put it in a venture that is favorite in itself, you are from the same tomb to another tomb.
As you heard that video where somebody came up and said that P2B wouldn't have done anything different from what Tinubu is doing now if P2B would have won the election. And I think, to me personally, before I like guys to hear the video where they analyzed that P2B would have done so many different things, I like to say my own point of view a little before I like guys take a look. I think P2B would have done so many things that Tinubu is not doing, because one is that P2B policy must, or his policy will be how to use this money to make Nigeria a greater nation, because P2B have been emphasizing on the issue of production than consumption. Just whatever you put, and then you can digest at the end of the video.
Sincerely, it's difficult to compare what is and what you think or what is not. It's essentially difficult to compare Asiwaju government and P2B's government that has never existed. You understand?
Like a shadow government.
A government that is in the minds of the people. Yes. So if Buhari was not allowed, let me use the word,
to rule
Nigeria,
would have tagged the president we never had.
Would have tagged the president we never had. But when he came on board for 6 months, everything we already know we're headed to next. And for the entire 8 years, there is nothing significant that we can say he really did so well. Why people are just giving him a little credit was because the current government are still missing a lot of points. But back to what Maduka himself said, he appears to be confused for the most part.
Yes.
If you really listen to him.
Yes.
You know, he said Obi would have removed
subsidy immediately.
Yes. He also said this government that they should be spending government money judiciously, that if you remove subsidy that it doesn't end there, you should spend government money judiciously. If you think they should spend government money judiciously, that is what Obi would have done differently. That is a possibility.
Because right now,
yes,
we are not seeing that money being spent judiciously.
That's right. So there are a lot of things Obi could have. Like I said, you can't compare what is not to what is. But given the privilege of comparing it, assuming Obi, there was a government called Obi's government, we were almost sure that Obi would spend government money judiciously. For example, when he was Anambra State governor, he insisted that the cars to be purchased will be innocent cars. So probably as a president, he would have insisted that locally manufactured cars must be bought for government usage, except where they are not adequate. And there are almost no cases where they are not adequate, apart from security vehicles or maybe bulletproof cars for the president and things like that. And those ones, you don't buy them every day. There are a lot of things. Putting certain measures to a kind of be a buffer to absorb the shock can be one of what Obi could have done differently.
At least Obi would have not bought a new presidential aircraft.
Yes, Obi would have not bought a new presidential jet. There are a lot of things. Also, removing the subsidy gradually rather than suddenly could have been what Obi would have done differently. There are many things Obi would have done differently. You can't compare really absolutely what is and what is not. But if we were Obi's lifestyle and his method of governance as a governor, these two people were former governors. There was nothing else that they were other than those just former governors, and maybe entrepreneurs. Tinubu was a worker. Okay, when we look at their lifestyles and their leadership style, I can authoritatively tell you that Obi would have done a lot of things differently.
Peter, Maduka's complaint is that nothing Obi would have done differently. That's basic. But he also came down and said, you don't remove money from somewhere, create excess and use it to marry wives, right? He said they should have put on infrastructural development. We have not seen any of those. 2 years is going down the line. Don't you think Obi would have done differently?
That's interesting. I wonder how I should answer this question. But Maduka is a man who should take seriously. A man that has a business that has survived this our horrendous economic atmosphere. A lot of businesses have collapsed, a lot have closed, a lot have moved on, but he stays. So when he speaks, we should listen. Yeah, there's some political undertone in what he said. He has given his government a pass mark. But policy-wise, yes, probably Obi would have removed subsidy. He would have done the same thing Tinubu did. But implementation is where the key is. Obi, during the campaign, promised to remove subsidy. But the way the government has implemented it is anti-people. He has brought pains to people. Probably Obi would have told the same line. We are eager for this subsidy to go because the scam there is much. But the money is recovered from subsidy removal. We are not seeing it. They were not invested in infrastructure. Listen, Obi probably would have used this money, would have seen, okay, we are building roads on this. You know, this money we are recovered from subsidy. So Obi probably would have done what he said differently, but policy-wise, probably. So I get where he's coming from.
Okay, so let's take the life of Maduka.
Yeah.
Maduka, not educated, got into mechanic work, got out of mechanic work and established his own. Couldn't pay the best experts, brought boys from the streets, and from there has built a company. We can see him go from down to up where he is today.
Yeah.
But our own country, you can't start from the top and be coming down. The basic issue is this: where the money for subsidy should go into.
Yes.
The first person that removed subsidy that we know practically was Abacha. As bad as Abacha was, in quotes, I don't see him as bad though.
Yeah.
As bad as we think he was, we saw
PTF.
Thank you, sir. We saw roads, we saw grants to schools, we saw hospitals. National Hospital was built, Gwarimpa was built by PTF, and so many roads. Don't you think that would have been an example they should have followed?
First of all, I do not believe Maduka is not educated. Maybe the education he had wasn't a conventional one. Yeah. Education doesn't have to be just a classroom thing. Okay, formal one. Okay, and that's also one of the problems we are facing today. If we are ticking the box, the person didn't graduate in the same school from, you think he's not educated. They are experiential learning, and they are actually a very valuable education. That said, Maduka talked about usage of the money. He also hinted about collection of loans,
yes,
something that is very, very important. Yes, usage of the money. What are infrastructural development? What are the key sectors? You see, when you have infrastructural development being driven by politics, there will not be national development. For example, if we are, instead of thinking of a rail network to connect Lagos and Abuja, and a road to connect Lagos and Abuja to be built by a minister, for example, Umahi, he would think, what has my state benefited? They would rather go to Ebonyi to do one road. They will go to, where is the woman leader, national woman leader for APC, for example. They'll go there, they do one road, they'll go, and that is why we are scattered. We do not have a 30-year plan. We do not have connection, a cohesive plan of infrastructure. We don't have that. If we have a cohesive plan of infrastructure that is not dependent on where the national chairman comes from, where the senate president comes from, I can assure you now that as Senator Akpabio, if you go to his village, everywhere there now has street lights. Everywhere, and I can assure you. You understand? Rather than having a cohesive national infrastructural development plan, which is not dependent on where Asiwaju himself is from. We are not doing that. Another thing he talked about is the loan. You know, let me tell you, he justified that you can always take loan.
Which we have already said before.
Which we have already used it for infrastructure. Which yes. Said before. But something very important that we don't look at about the loan is conditions of the loan. conditions of the loan? What are the conditions surrounding your business entity, in this case Nigeria as an entity? What are the conditions surrounding our fiscal policies? What are the conditions of taking the loan from somebody? If a loan says, oh, when you take it in the next 10 years you don't pay me, I'll become the president of Nigeria, or you lose your sovereignty, will you take that? So what are they mortgaging? Under what conditions are they mortgaging our future? And what is our balance sheet? Where are we? For you, there's something called gearing ratio. You understand? What is our gearing ratio as a nation that we are taking loan? Ratio of the loan we have as to what we generate. Okay? And all those, what are the indices that we are relying on to take loan? Like we're talking about P2B, what was the loan Obi took as a governor the day he was leaving? Or what is the amount of loan Anambra was owing? He had it. You saw his shit. Rather, he had investments. He had investment which people criticized
and had financial backbone to which the government that was coming would lean on.
Yes, in investment analysis, there's something to call risk lovers and risk averse investors. So this also affects how you lead. It affects how you take decisions. So Obi would have done a lot of things differently. Certain loans he might not take, and certain ones he would take. And the other day that they cost on generated additional money rather than
saving and using for,
could use it to reduce our loan. A lot of things he could have done.
It could have been a buffer zone for us, you know, because this well, we will not talk about the financing of the loan because the financing of the loan is going to be a lot on borrowing.
Yes.
So now you are getting some revenues back. You are now increasing your budget, which economically doesn't.
We don't even know what those things
are that were included in it.
To share to the poor, which the
Peter,
poor will not see.
Your concluding message.
I'll take the line of Maduka. Borrowing isn't a bad thing, but what are you borrowing for? What are you using it for? If it's used for infrastructure, it will repay itself. If you use for investment, it will repay itself. But borrowing for recurrent expenditure is, for me, a no. Because it's not going to repay. You borrow with tendency to pay back. Yes, the conditions there we don't know. But what he's saying that borrowing isn't bad, and which I too. But what are we borrowing for? So that's where this government should be more open. Like I know what this government is borrowing for.
Like I chip in, those conditions are the things that will let you know whether that investment can pay back. It doesn't just pay back by mouth. It doesn't just say, oh, once I carry this and I do infrastructure, that infrastructure must pay back. Not infrastructure will pay back. Yeah. It's interest rate accumulates so much, and what it will be yielding in a year will never be more than after minusing the recurring the running cost. That is not a good investment at the end of the day.
I think one of the reasons we are even giving this attention to what Maduka said is because we are not seeing any improvement on ground. The people have been more impoverished and there are no structures on ground.
Yes. And I'm also trying to deny the public that there is no option
in Obi or any other person.
Or any other person.
This policy is going the right way. We're heading in the right direction. That's what he's saying.
Exactly. So the policies definitely are not
probably not going to the destination. But from what he said, for whom he is and believing him, this Nigeria is heading to the right direction. So with time we will know.
Well, Nigeria headed to the right direction. We are yet to see it, and we don't even see prospect. And like Okafor said, what are this money being used for? Well, maybe we'll leave it there and look at how we progress in the next dispensation. As in 2 years is going now. We'll be right back on News Insight.
I believe you want the whole video now. Let's digest it. You know, P2B was governor of Anambra State for 8 years, and he was able to change Anambra State in a way that no other governor has done till today. P2B met Anambra State when the education sector is on the ground. P2B single-handedly brought up education in Anambra State. P2B single-handedly brought up security in Anambra State, and now it's worse because it's in the hands of the wrong ones. And then somebody is coming out to compare P2B and Tinubu. These people are all comparable because the ideology they have is different. P2B is working for the people, whereas Tinubu is working for those that helped him to enter seats. Simple as that. P2B assumes that many P2B met Goodluck Jonathan and then asked him or told him that I don't want any illegal vote added to me. Let my vote be my vote. If I don't win, let me not win. This was what he did when he said when he was campaigning for a second tenure in Anambra State. And then somebody is coming out to say that P2B wouldn't have done anything, assuming he won the election. It's a lie. Yes, he might have removed fuel subsidy, but that money he removed for subsidy would have been used for meaningful things. At least P2B wouldn't have buy the private jets. At least he would have used the money from fuel subsidy to make this country to be a country that produces, as you always say, because P2B's word is that if you want to make Nigeria great again, let's convert this country from a country that consumes to a country that produces. Because this country, all we do is consume. We don't produce anything. We don't produce anything in Nigeria. When I mean anything, we don't produce any dime in Nigeria. All our raw materials are being exported to China or other countries, and then we import the finished goods. Because we don't have any factory, industry that produces all these things. And the question is, how many of us are able capable of producing all these things? Go to Aba. You see the wonders people are doing in Aba. They are building shoes in Aba. They are building clothes in Aba. They can rebrand a company in Aba. If you look at the real one, this is what this government would have focused on. Bring up all these talents, put them together, and create the industrial website or industrial factory. Put these talents into the industrial factory, and then let them start using our raw materials to produce good things that we will use. Instead of importing, we will be exporting finished products too, so that we can make money to boost our economy. But in our country, Nigeria, it's not like that, because of what the government are just prune, or let's say they are only eager on sustaining themselves and not working for the masses that put them in. That's even if the masses are not put them in, because we know how they want the election, but at least show conscience that you care about the people you are leading. But in Nigeria, it's not like that. They are only for themselves, and that's why we are in this mess we are in. And I don't know if we can get out of this mess unless we have the great leader that can do that. So I'll see you guys in my next video as your views. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned, guys.